So the Soo Greyhounds are about to make their one and only visit to the Saddlin Arena in Barrie this weekend. And for the Greyhounds, it's a season that has been a bit of a roller coaster ride. There were some spurts where the team was putting some wins together, and recently, the wins have been a little more hard to come by. So to talk a bit about how this season has gone, we're going to invite Brad Coccimiglio over. He's with the Soo Today. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be on. I was definitely up when you messaged me asking me to join you. Definitely was looking forward to it.
And you're someone who follows the Greyhounds quite in depth. And what's been the biggest surprise to you this year with how this season has gone? I know last year was the big run. They went to the second round of the playoffs, losing in seven to Saginaw. And this year, were the expectations to have another deep run?
You know what? I don't think so. I mean, not for me. I kind of looked at this team as kind of being not far off of where they are currently. This was a team that I kind of that said, I don't think I expected them to be, quite as far under 500 as they are at this point, but definitely a team that I expected was probably going to be, round four, if, 500, give or take, probably battling for, positioning, which I mean they are at this point, which makes sense, right? But I definitely was expecting a step back, all things considered, when you lose guys like Bryce McConnell Barker and and Gavin Hayes and Jacob Frasca, who obviously Barry fans are really familiar with, and losing guys like that was pretty big. And then they heading into the deadline they unload a little bit. So I think the expectation was that this team was going to probably end up going a little younger, which they did end up doing. It hasn't been an easy year for them, but as they say, I think the kids are all right. They're they look like they're at times taking a step. So it's gonna be interesting to see how things develop over the next couple of seasons with this young group.
And you mentioned that this team getting younger, they trade Andrew Gibson to the Oshawa Generals, and you bring up a Brady Smith, but now you've got two Brady Smiths on the roster. Is this to like trip up us broadcasters getting two Brady Smiths in the lineup?
Yeah, you're not kidding, right? It's been an experience. And John Dean, I don't know if if it was a sense of humor or what, but of course, first game Brady Smith plays, he's on the line with Brady Smith, and I got to give Josh Sweetland at the OHL office a shout out for making sure he got the middle initial tweet out very shortly after that trade to make I think makes all of our lives a little easier. Yeah, you know what? It's been interesting kind of juggling that, and it's definitely made writing about the team definitely got to be even more careful than I normally would in terms of double checking and making sure I've got the right Brady Smith and I'm referencing the right guy on certain plays. So it's been fun, but that said, Brady's fit in pretty well with the roster so far. He's missed a little bit of time due to injury, but he looks like he's going to be a good fit, and it helps this team a little bit with with Ryder Cowley not reporting their first round pick from last year, and then ultimately getting traded to North Bay, and this kind of I don't want to say makes up for that, but it's helpful getting a guy that was a first round pick in last spring's draft. So he's been a good fit so far. It was tough for the team losing Andrew Gibson. He's obviously a big minutes guy, and in that regard. But I think it was a good move for all sides, so to speak.
And another trade that was done at the deadline was acquiring Lalonde from the Kingston Frontenacs for Charlie
Yep.
Schenkel. And Lalonde, he made his presence known recently, scoring that goalie
Yeah.
goal. So things aren't so bad after the move.
Yeah, for sure. First goalie goal in Soo Greyhounds history too, which was a pretty big feat. And again, he's been a good fit. I know, talking to Kyle Raftis after the deal, that was a deal that it was a weird situation because there had been talk about the potential of Schenko getting dealt just because he'd been playing so well prior to the deadline, and the Greyhounds looking to again go younger. That trade was kind of one of those things where I feel like the biggest pieces were the draft picks that came over, but the fact that Nolan Lalonde's come in, he scored a goal. He's got two shutouts. He's played some real good hockey, for them, and he's been a real good fit. He seems like, and admittedly, I didn't know him personally, obviously, before coming in, but he seems like, he strikes me as a guy who's really well liked in the room, which I think is big for a young team. And I think it's going to be good for Landon Miller going forward as as his goalie partner, just because Landon's battled some consistency issues this year. So it'll be good for him to have still have a veteran guy who's got a Memorial Cup, who's got some good experience over the last few years, and as an NHL prospect as well. So that I think that deal's turned out pretty well. Nolan Lalonde's played a lot of hockey here of late, but the Grounds have a ton of games here going forward. Over the last 6-8 weeks of the season. So both guys are going to get some opportunities. But yeah, Landon's been or Nolan's been a really good fit rather for them coming in that deal for sure.
And with the playoff picture in the Western Conference, it just seems as though uh, there's a lot of positions still up for grabs. We don't have, you got the London Knights, of course, who are kind of running away with it now with the way they've been playing. You got Windsor and Kitchener at the top. But then after that, it seems like a squishy kind of middle there that the Soo Greyhounds kind of find themselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team that they're a few points behind Flint and Sarnia right now. For sixth and seventh in the conference. Then you look behind them and they've got Owen Sound's only 2 points back as we record today, and Guelph's not that far back either as the 10 seed in the West. So there's kind of a log jam there. In terms of teams being able to move, and if any of these teams go on a little run, they could move up 2 or 3 spots pretty easily. So, it's going to make for a lot of fun here over the last couple months of the regular season, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, I look at Owen Sound who. Has been streaky at times, but they've got a guy in Carter George. Speaking of goaltenders, who has obviously got the ability to steal games and play real well, and these are all teams that I think are looking for some experience and looking for some playoff experience with some of their younger guys. And, as tough as it would be being an 8 seed and facing London, it's, that little bit of playoff experience could potentially be helpful down the road, right? So, yeah, I mean, log jam is definitely the best way to put it. And, the way things look now could be very different than the way they look at the end of March when it's playoff time.
And one great prospect on the lineup right now, Brady Martin, who fans in the Eastern Conference, we don't get to see all that often, being with the Sioux in the West. So Martin's game this season, have you seen a lot of improvement from last year? And do you think he could be a first round pick at the NHL level?
Yeah, I feel like he's going to be a guy that's going to be a first round pick. I feel like I'd be surprised if he didn't end up going in the first round. He's a guy that he wears his heart on his sleeve. It seems like game in, game out. He's generally very well engaged. Extremely skilled with the puck. I don't think his numbers necessarily reflect this year just how good he's been at times. Just you see some of the things he's done, and he's a kid. You can see why he was a third overall pick in the OHL draft. You could see why he was such a highly touted guy coming into that draft. He's a guy who he's got a physical aspect. He's a very strong kid. He comes from a farming background back home, so he was just a naturally strong kid coming into the league, and I think we've even seen that take a step as he's trained more, over the last year plus, and we're seeing a lot of good things out of his game, and I think his game has developed, over the last year compared to even what we saw in his rookie year. And he had some injury issues in year one, where he missed a stretch early in the year, but he came back from that well, and injuries haven't been a concern since for him. And yeah, he's been great. I mean, he's a kid that looks like he's got a very bright future ahead of him for sure.
And with that bright future too, it just seems as though you've got a good core going forward into next season. Because obviously
Yeah.
this year it's all about gaining the experience and finding that chemistry. But for next year, it almost looks like this Soo Greyhounds team could take that next step to maybe contend for top spot in that West Division.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be, I feel like they're going to be good next year. I mean, you take guys like Martin, a kid like Travis Hayes, who, his numbers, maybe don't knock your socks off this year, but, there were stretches early in the year where he's getting lots of chances, and it was just maybe a little bit snake bitten. He's a kid that, I think has got a bright future ahead of him, especially in the OHL. And that '07 group, Kyle Raftis has said to me on multiple occasions, how much he really liked their '07s. And you look at it, obviously Martin and Hayes are the top two guys on that. Hunter Solomon's come in as an '07 defenseman and played well as a first year guy. Chase Reed is basically going to have about half a season in him by the end of the year. And I haven't seen too many 17-year-old defensemen come in and just jump out of the gate rather, as well as he has here, through his first 18, 20 games or whatever it's been. And he's been great. And I think he's exceeded expectations. I think, people had a bit of an idea that he was probably going to be a good defenseman, but he's come in and really kind of taken his game to a level that I don't think we expected this early. Jordan Sharon's another guy who, kind of luxury with the Greyhounds is, he was an NCAA guy. And, once that rule changed, and Chase Reed's the same thing where, these guys come in because of that NCAA rule. And, yeah, the '07s are going to be good. Carson Andrew, you see flashes of, him as an '08, Brady R. Smith, rather, again, another '07 that, he's had a pretty good year for them as well in his first year in the league. So, like, I think we're seeing that '07 group that, we're kind of seeing flashes of, what Kyle Raftis keeps saying in terms of how much he likes that group. And it's going to be great going forward, because obviously that's what this team is building around over the next 2 years. And if these guys take another step next year, they're going to be they're going to be good next year. They're going to be dangerous. And if Landon Miller kind of gets his consistency back, he was good last year. When Landon Miller's on, he's pretty tough to beat. So could make for a very interesting year for the Greyhounds next year if these guys continue to develop and take that next step going into next season.
And that's what junior hockey is all about. Every year, you're going to see something different. You're going to see these players take that next step. And you see it in the West Division as an example with the Windsor Spitfires. They were at the bottom of
Absolutely.
the conference last year, and now they're running away with the West Division. So, really, anything's possible if you've got that game plan in place.
Yeah, for sure. And Windsor, like you said, is a prime example of that. I mean, you look at the Greyhounds last year, that was a team that was widely considered one of the top three teams in the league with Saginaw and London. And I've had a couple of people say to me that they thought that the Greyhounds could have been a team that could have gone to the Memorial Cup last year and contended in the same fashion that London and Saginaw did. And that was a team that really struggled the year before. So that's, like you said, that's the great thing about junior hockey is you never really know how much of a step these guys are going to take. And again, like you said, Windsor's a perfect example of it this year. A team that really struggled last year. Gets Ethan Belchitz in the draft. Guys take a significant step in their development, and all of a sudden they're a team that looks like they're going to win the division, and are going to be pretty tough to beat in the playoffs. And it's going to make things fun between them, London, and Kitchener. As we get deeper into the Western Conference playoffs, for sure.
Well, the league I find is always better when the Greyhounds are one of the contenders, just that classic look. And this year, unveiling those new third jerseys, the black and red,
Yeah.
the Greyhounds looking pretty sharp this year. Well, I don't know who makes the jersey designs, but you guys keep knocking them out of the park up there.
Yeah, that's what they're great looking jerseys. The only, like a lot of broadcasters and reporters, the only concern I had was that, kind of darker red on the black jersey that, it's funny because it looks so nice, but it's they can be tough to read at times when you're watching on TV or when you're even when you're watching in the rink. But yeah, they've done a great job over the years of designing jerseys. Whether it was these ones, their third jerseys, previous to this had been, kind of that old school with, the white stripe through them and stuff. And yeah, they've been pretty good. And even their specialty jerseys have generally been, really sharp looking jerseys too. If there's yeah, definitely, they're definitely an organization that seems to do it right when it comes to designs for sure.
Maybe we won't talk about the 90s cartoon Greyhound look, but besides that, everything's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably I feel like people learned from that one pretty well.
Well, Brad, it was great catching up to you, and all the best the rest of the season.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Look forward to chatting down the road.
So that was Soo Greyhounds beat reporter Brad Coccimiglio, and it's always great just to be able to chat with other media from around the Ontario Hockey League. Haven't had too many print media guys on the broadcast or on here on the channel, but it was great to be able to catch up with Brad, who's just so passionate about the Greyhounds and does an amazing job covering that team on Soo today. Even just the whole support that the Greyhounds get, the fans travel in droves. It's always fun seeing the red Greyhound sweaters at all the visiting barns as they make their way across the Ontario Hockey League. So, this is going to be a big test for the Greyhounds this weekend, as it'll be their second game on the road trip when they do come into Barrie on Saturday, and the Colts will be well rested. Their last game, of course, was Tuesday at home against the Kingston Frontenacs, and the Barrie Colts looking to extend that winning streak, or that point streak rather, to 10 games on Saturday. Gene and I will have the call on Rogers TV. Puck drop is at 7:30. Can't wait to call that one. And yeah, thank you again for tuning in. Thank you very much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.